All right, back with my friend Mitch Hull for another episode of Beyond Coaching. We talked last month and decided that that wasn't enough, so here we are again. Thanks, Mitch, for joining me for another conversation.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Rob.
Cool. Well, we hit on and I actually wrote a Substack post on based on our conversation talking about stress. So after we stopped recording last time, you talked about some stuff you were learning. So kind of share the background, the TED talk you listened to, and your views on stress.
Yeah, and I read that after you posted, which was a really good summary of what we kind of talked about, and what really kicked it off for me, which was the TED talk that Kelly McGonigal did on stress, and I was like watching those to get them to relate to sport. Because all of these, they all, if you look at them, there's value to all of it, especially when we tie this stress and what Kelly talked about, and then we go over to Carol Dweck's work on mindset, between a growth and fixed mindset. And so it came about really as I was getting ready to do a uh, keynote with USA Artistic Swimming, because they just come off an Olympic silver medal. They do use our training for their coaches. And they also told me I had an opportunity to talk with the, they're basically seniors in high school, the top girls in this country, uh, athletically and academically, because most of those end up at Ohio State, Stanford, places like that that have synchronized swimming, or actually it's artistic swimming programs now. And after I listened to Kelly's talk, I go, this is a good place to see uh, what might happen, because under self reporting, the individuals that state they feel they're under the highest stress are basically this 16 to 24-year-old age group. Now, we all recognize that when we look back, when we're in our 40s and we look back at 16 to 24, for most of us, it really wasn't that stressful, but it doesn't matter, because it's what you perceive that's happening at the time, and that doesn't lessen it in any manner. So when I was there, I asked the question that Kelly did with that research was done by, where they asked 8,000 people this question: in the past year, have you been under a little a little amount of stress, a moderate, or a lot of stress? Recognize there's no right or wrong answer. It's just the answer that you come up with. And uh, what they did after that was asked another question: do you see stress as bad for you? Then over a period of time, they looked at basically they looked at the death rolls, because they did 30,000 people to see who died. They see, and what came across was you had a 43% higher mortality rate if you saw you were under a lot of stress. And I don't care who you are, you understand that is statistically significant. But the key was those that were under a lot of stress, and also said that they did not see stress as bad for them, had the lowest mortality rate of all the groups. And basically what she came out of that was, and even in her own study, was um, I may be doing this wrong, because we keep telling people stress is bad for you. You know, it causes
Mhm.
heart attacks. It can, to the common cold, all of these things can be brought on by stress. And instead of teaching people stress is bad for you, help them to understand it's only bad if you see it as bad for you. So it's not the stress, it's the perception. And then she goes, they figured over that time 182,000 people a year died not from stress, but stressing about stress, which made it the 15th largest killer in our country. So I'm going, all right, so how does this apply to athletics? Which is, to me, it was simple, because of how she explained the other parts of it. And so when I asked those girls, the high school girls, I had 45 high school seniors there, and I asked them this question: in the past year, have you been under a little stress, a moderate amount of stress, a lot of stress? 85% of them raise their hand for a lot of stress. And sometimes as we understand it, we also get it. These are high performers.
Mhm.
Everything is about performance academically, athletically, and when it's about the outcome, that's where stress can get to you. So then the question is, what do we do about it? How do we help people address stress? I'll tell you if you want to know.
So, yeah, well, I was gonna so I we're recording this the day after the Masters, and I was listening to a Rory McIlroy interview this morning, and I think it was from a while ago, but he said they said the interview asked him like, "Hey, how do you deal with the pressure?" And he said, "It may sound counterintuitive, but I take the pressure and the stress and I think of what's the worst thing that could happen. Oh, I could hit it in the trees. Well, I've been there before. I can deal with that." And he plays out all the worst case scenarios in his mind and reframes it. I thought of our conversation as, I've been there before. I can figure it out. Is that kind of how you understand what we're talking about?
Ye That's one of the things. But what about the person who
Mhm.
hasn't been there before and is trying to get there?
Yeah.
Both of those come into play because you have to if you understand that you've been there before, then you say, "What's the worst thing that can happen?"
Mhm.
What it does is you take Carol Dweck's work and you tie it into stress. You have to look at it as a growth mindset. Growth mindset people focus on the journey, not the destination, right? It's all right. He's gone. If this happens, I know I can deal with it. He's taking the journey aspect. He's not looking at, I got to win the Masters. I got to win the Masters in that moment.
Yeah.
That's what creates the stress. And and the
Mhm.
great part about this is we have to help people not because I could go back. We try to help people by saying, let's lower the stress. Let's get rid of the stress. Watch any of these.
That's what I did.
Yep, that's what I did as well. And I go, when I watch these things now, I watch them differently. And I go, watch America's Got Talent or American Idol or all of these things that these kids are and even adults are doing this that could change their life. Right? It could really change their life if it goes well. And they're up there and the people and the judges, man, you look really nervous. You agree? Yeah, you are. Well, their first statement, well, don't be nervous. It's just a, what do you, how well does that go? Okay, I guess I'm not nervous anymore because they told me not to be. No, in fact, when they tell me not to be, and I cannot lower the level of stress, now I'm feeling like I'm failing because
Yeah.
they're
And
not
something's wrong
stressed.
with you.
Obviously, they're not stressed. I am. Boy, their careers, they don't get stressed. What you need to do is change your outlook. This is the key part of it. And the research is what's great about the research is without going into detail, it shows you that this is something you can change people's mindsets quickly on. So, what we need to do is, well, reality, what is stress anyway? Or what is being nervous or uncomfortable, whatever words you want to use? That's your body. If you're looking at it, instead of saying, holy smokes, I can't perform, and instead say, that's my body helping me prepare. Because as what is the physical response to stress? Which, by the way, it's the same physical response to being excited. So, first of all, when are we stressed? Big time job interview, trying to perform in athletics, asking a girl out for the first time. It's all the same feeling.
So,
Okay.
yeah, when things matter to us. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And so what happens is when this happens, what does your body do? You tend to, breathe a little faster. All right, your heart certainly pumps more. Well, if you're looking at it the right way, what happens when you breathe a little more? You get more oxygen in your blood. What happens when your heart pumps harder? Gets more blood to your extremities and your brain. It's preparing me for the challenge. What I need to look at, this is preparing me. Now, if I see stress is bad and I'm going to freeze up, your blood vessels actually constrict when that happens. Which now what
Mhm.
happens? I can't get as much blood to my extremities. And that's when I get lightheaded. That's when I feel weak. That's when I feel tired because of it. It's not the stress, it's how we react to it. So now it's about, all right, now all I got to do is help kids. I got to help them with tools. First of all, explain to them it's not a bad thing, it's helping you get prepared. So take some deep breaths and slow down, right? Use this to help focus not on the not on winning, but on the skills that you've already learned that's going to help you get there, which is
Mhm.
how often do you see people set personal records, set world records in practice? Not very often. Why? Because they're not stressed enough. Let's look at that. I'm not stressed
Mhm.
enough. It's not important enough. They set it when they are absolutely under the stress and they've used it well. It got them to focus and they've got more more blood in your to your muscles in the brain, and with that, adrenaline kicks in. So if we do it the opposite, then all of those things, the stress, then it's the cortisol and all this stuff that is anti-performance. Our job is to help young people and help us as well say, all right, I'm looking forward to being stressed. Right. And now we can help people through it. And in your article you wrote, and I liked how you ended it, I said it kind of, you said, I said it um, kind of, I can't remember the words you used, but it was
Yeah, tongue in cheek a little bit.
tongue in
Yeah.
cheek about if I were to go to my team and say, hey, if you don't feel stressed, you're not playing. No, I'm not tongue in cheek because I've explained to them why already. And this is where we get into the explanation. You already said it. When are you stressed? It's a simple math formula, which, by the way, they have it wrong. When Kelly had it in there, and I looked at it, and I go, the formula is wrong because it's very simple. She goes, stress is basically caring plus uncertainty equals discomfort, stress, or nervousness. All of those are basically the same thing. And I go, I know math. That's the wrong formula because it's caring times uncertainty. Because caring plus means if you don't care, which that makes it zero, but the result's really uncertain, there's still a lot of stress because you add them together. When it's caring times and one of them zero, then all these math people out there listening to us, what's zero times any number? Zero.
Mm.
So that we look at this and we go, then I'm going to explain my athletes. This is the championship game here, right? Um, the results uncertain. This is why the champion is two great teams. It's a championship game. The results uncertain. So if you're not nervous, there's only one thing left. You don't care. Your caring is at zero. Why in the world would I play somebody who's not nervous for the championship game? Because the only way it could be that way is that you don't care. What I'm doing now is giving them permission. Now I'm going to teach them how to use
Mm.
it. Because the flip side,
Yeah.
all right, if it's if I really care about the result, so that's the big number. But let's say the I got to pass this math test to get into law school, and the math test is only single digit numbers added together. So the most can be is 9 plus 9, right? I really care about getting in, but that result is so certain. I know all my single digit additions. I'm not nervous. Right? So it works both ways. Mm. And now what we have done is we're giving kids the permission to have stress and making it a good thing. And the research is clear on this. When you do that and you can help people change quickly, you change how they look at it too. And it will help
Mm.
performance, whether it's your GREs, which are pretty dang important. So you're going in and say, hey, you feel stressed? Well, you should be. It's important. Just use that to focus. Okay. Now, do you know what I took away? The stress about being stressed. I didn't take the stress away. I can't do that. Right? It's not about taking it away. It's about giving them tools to be able to do stress well.
Mhm. So let me ask you this. So I've been jotting notes on the stress. It seems like the goal of a coach is to understand it, create understanding among the team, reframe it, and really lean into it. The other piece you talked about was not focusing on winning and just having sticking to the process. What advice do you have to those? I totally agree. Yeah, I think it's very hard for coaches themselves to stick for the process and even harder to teach kids to do that. So, what practical tips or advice do you have on how to stick with the process?
Um, One of the things I talked to a the UW Whitewater football coach, Kevin Bullis. He's retired from that. No, but they've won the national championships. They've been in the championship game. They actually set a record. UW Whitewater and Mount Union played in 6 straight national championship games in Division III. Uh, he says at the beginning of the year, he talks about it brings the team together and tells them, our goal is to win the national championship. Now, that's the last time you're going to hear for that from me all year. They don't focus on that. It's about the journey. It's about the skills. It's about the process. And this is where Carol Dweck's work comes in. You can lower stress or lower even how people see stress just by having a growth mindset over a fixed mindset instead of focusing on the destination. That's what fixed mindset people do. I'm going to be the state champion. I'm going to be the national champion. That's all they talk about. That doesn't mean they won't get there, but that's added pressure because all they care about is the end. What I want people to focus on is, and there's a great interview uh, uh, of Giannis Antetokounmpo when he was in the lead for the scoring title, and the interviewer asked him, does he think about it? And then before she was finished, he goes, never. I don't. That's for other people.
Hmm.
All I focus on is how can I shoot free throws better? How can I get more rebounds? How can I be a better teammate? How can I be? He went off 9 things that were growth mindset thought, not a fixed mindset. He didn't care. I just want to be a better player. You know what? If Giannis Antetokounmpo becomes a better player, he's likely to win the scoring title. But he doesn't care
Mhm.
about the result. So if what we want to do is help kids focus on, well, I'll take my sport and just say that I can wrestling. Right? We're going to the match. I'm not focused on what the score is. Right? The first period, you know how to do a double leg takedown. You know how to do like so. Focus on staying in position. When they reach, take the tie off and go into the tacks that we've worked on. Just work on the performance aspect, not the result aspect. Keep kids working on focused on the journey, and then the destination is much more likely to happen.
Mhm. And it seems for a coach, at least my experience, your kids are gonna focus on what you point out and celebrate. So, celebrating the tiny things that lead to success, as opposed to having huge celebrations after every win or meltdowns after every loss.
Absolutely. You're is in it, this is where the coach is so important because all of the cues are going to come off of you. If you talk about we're going to focus on the journey, and then you happen to lose and you go nuts about the outcome, I don't care what you say. It's what you
Yep.
do that's going to tell them what's important. That doesn't mean I do not want to downplay the outcome, but the outcome's just part of the process, right? What the outcome
Mhm.
is so we lost. All right. In a growth mindset, what did we learn from that? Might learn that, hey, we're not in good enough shape yet. Might learn that I got to change the offense because we're going to have to run a lot harder in basketball if I got a whole bunch of 5'11" guys and I'm taking on 6'7" people. Right? I'm not going to be able to beat them and set off, and we're just going to have to be miserable on them all game. All right? It's the process along the way that you focus on.
And I think we're getting to a layer of what it means to be competitive too. I remember, so you talked about wrestling. My old world's baseball, and loved studying a guy named Ken Ravizza. He was with Cal State Fullerton. He was their sports psych, their mental health coach, and before it was cool. Now everybody's doing it. But he used to always ask into these interviews of what does it mean to compete? You know, he says, define it for me, because a lot of pounding chests and that kind of thing is sometimes what people see as competing. And his definition was it's continually compensating and adjusting. It's you're working on the process, you compensate as things change, you adjust, and you keep moving forward. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. You compensate and adjust, and you focus on the process.
It's what he had to say is it's all language, how we say it in saying the same thing. It's
Yeah.
like, I've always said, if I was coaching again, I'd have one huge sign in my wrestling room, and it would say this: "Failure is not an option, it's mandatory." Right? I don't want people afraid of failing because you won't take risks then. And then the statement underneath it says, "Because we're failing forward." I wanna know what you're failing at. Not what you can do. I want to know what you're failing at. Then we can work on that. And when we get that right, then we can high five and then move on to the next thing that you fail at. So that all we're doing is things along the line. I don't need in practice, if you're great at doing a double leg takedown, I don't need you practicing that all day. In fact, I've had days with guys like that. Well, next 2 days, you can't shoot a double leg takedown. You're not allowed to do it. I want you to do something you can't do. And then when you screw up, if it doesn't work, we can figure out in practice. I'd rather have you fail here in practice than in competition. But at some place you have to fail in order to know what we're going to work on.
Mhm. I think
So
that's as good a
mom and
statement.
dad, if you're watching, here's what you should ask at the dinner table. Hey, what'd you fail at today? What'd you fail at today? I don't want my children afraid to fail, because if they didn't fail at anything, then my concern is, well, you didn't really try anything then, did you? If you're not in,
Yeah.
so let's figure out where it's at, and then we can analyze. And oh, great. Well, tomorrow you can practice that, or it might be in the classroom. Why'd you fail in math? Oh, I didn't get my homework done. All right, we learned something, didn't we? You can't succeed here if you don't do your homework. Well, next time, sit in the front row of the class, pay attention, turn your homework in, and I bet we're going to do better next time.
Mhm. Well, I'm gonna have it in there and use that as a shameless plug for people to come back next time, because we're gonna talk youth sports and parents on a next episode with you. So, um, thanks for coming on today. Another good conversation, and looking forward to future ones.
All right, thanks, Rob. I appreciate it.